Good morning, traders. Welcome to today's market review. This is Fred Razak at CMtrading. Today's August 23rd, 2019, and today is Friday morning. So looking at the major economic events of the day out of the United States, later today at 4 o'clock South African time, we had Fed Chairman Powell will be speaking. I don't expect any new news to be out there, but also simultaneously throughout the day, there's going to be the Jackson Hole Symposium, okay, which is nothing that we've seen before relatively. It's not a news event that comes up every so often, but it is an important event because it's central bankers, it's head finance ministers that will be meeting in Jackson Hole, Wyoming to have this symposium. Now, the press is not allowed into the actual symposium, but as these ministers or finance ministers or central bank attendees will be coming out, they will be hounded by the press, okay? So there will be some sort of press coverage on it. Okay, now I don't expect too many surprises, and it's going to happen in the United States. So it's US time, so it's going to be in the afternoon to the late over the weekend. So if you are taking any positions over the weekend, just be aware that this event is happening. Now, looking at the markets, Forex markets, we're looking at the South African rand getting weaker versus the US dollar, while the British pound gains versus the US dollar. We'll take a look at those specific ones. Indices, Dow Jones challenged with a 26,300-ish level. Every time it hits it, it sells off. Interesting to note, if we're going to look at that today, let's see if it does break above it. Now, looking at commodities, gold and oil pretty much flat. And looking at the stocks, it's pretty much a mixed bag. And maybe that's the reason the Dow Jones is challenged with this 26,300-ish level. And lastly, looking at cryptocurrencies, they're trading sideways. Now, this is really the summer trading, okay? So we got one more week until summer trading is over, and we'll get some momentum moving into the fall. But let's take a look at the market to see what we could expect from today's trading. So we're taking a look here at the Euro USD on a 1 hour chart, and you can see that we're pretty much flirting with the bottom range here, okay? Really flirting. I mean, we even hit a low of 110.60-ish level and didn't break below it. Now, I was expecting it to sell off. It was going to sell off, but it may just turn around, okay? I mean, it's light volume. It's on a certain threshold, but it's not breaking lower, okay? But remember, 110 is an important level, especially if we do break it, as it may correct itself moving into September. Okay, now looking at that, that's where we're standing. We're about 60 pips away from our 110-ish flat level. But in order to actually create that for us to break it, we're going to have to do that with some momentum. Okay, so we've been in a really tight range over the past week. Now, looking at the GBP USD, a different story here. We finally broke above, okay, from 121.20-ish level, and we rallied to 122.29-ish level, almost a 100 pip rally there, and that's a big change for the GBP. Now, we were flirting with disaster at 120.50, which was our almost all-time low, okay, or close to it, okay, as you can see here on a weekly chart. Now, remember, on a weekly chart, we're still on this, downwards trend line, and perhaps this will be a resistance level. If we look at a 1 hour chart, you can see we actually broke it, but altogether has to sustain it in order for it to possibly break out higher, okay? So 121.98-ish level, I would say, is a support level. So if we do break it, we could just see it maybe a correctional move on the downside. Now, looking at the USD Rand, this is what I'm talking about. We finally broke this 1495-ish level and challenged this 1545-ish level on the upside. Now, looking on a weekly chart, that's an important event. Okay, now I would look for this 1495 to be subsequent support as this broke above this 1540-ish level. Okay, now it might not happen today. It may take some time until this actually plays out, but there is a change here, okay, a massive change here. Now, jumping into gold and oil, I mean, you can see we're just really trading very flat. 1495 between this 1502, very tight range. We're looking at a 1 hour chart, not much happening. Neither in oil here. I mean, we've been in a little bit of a roller coaster ride, but 50 cents move on the price of a barrel is not much to actually write home about. Now, looking at the Dow Jones, that's what I'm talking about. We have this resistance at 26,300-ish level. We've tried to challenge it on the upside several times, and we can't seem to break through. Okay, this is obviously after the massive correction we had at the beginning of the month, and today is going to be a telling sign. Okay, because we are trading within that range, and we are making this somewhat of a wedge formation, okay, as we get closer to this resistance level. So if we don't break above it, we may see a correctional move on the downside. Now, like I said, stocks are a mixed bag. Microsoft kind of sold off yesterday and then gained its pairs, whatever it sold off to. It's on 137, just shy of its all-time highs of 141-ish level. If you look at that, right, it's just shy of it. Okay, only 4 points away from it, but not breaking higher, not showing us that it's got some momentum. It could that it may pick up sometime in September, but that has yet to be seen. Now, looking at Apple, which was also the strong one, has somewhat sustained itself at 212. Okay, hasn't sold off, which is interestingly enough, and still sustaining itself. So these things may still continue to go higher, but they have to really follow through. Now, lastly, looking at Bitcoin, again, trading sideways in the mid-range between our upper limit and our lower limit of 10,800-ish level and 9,300-ish level. So really nothing to write home about here, but just be aware that if it does creep either higher or lower, closer to these extremities, then it may be a potential entry point. So just keep an eye on this, because they usually, or many times, okay, after taking the nosedive that we had earlier this week, right? We had this challenge with this resistance, and then we were consolidating here. So that's a positive sign. So we may see a correctional move going into next week. This is Fred Razak. I want to wish everybody a great trading day. Thank you.